Love is supposed to hurt sometimes. That's what everyone told me. So when my chest ached at night, when my stomach twisted at small silences, when I reread messages searching for tone, I told myself it was normal. Relationships aren't perfect. People have moods. Distance happens. I believed all of it until the night I learned the truth. Not shouted, not confessed, just exposed, quietly, carelessly, by someone who assumed I already knew. That's the thing about truth. It doesn't need drama to destroy you. It just needs timing. My name is Maya Ellison. I am 31 years old and I live in Vancouver, Canada. I met Ethan 3 years ago at a bookstore cafe. He reached for the same novel I did, laughed, and said, "Guess the book chose us." It felt like fate. He was attentive in ways that felt rare, remembered small details, checked in without being asked, made me feel seen in rooms where I usually faded into the background. When he said, "I love you," it didn't feel rushed. It felt earned, which is why I ignored the warning signs when they appeared. Ethan never liked photos together. Not openly, just casually avoided them. "Let's be present," he'd say, smiling. He didn't tag me online. "I don't really use social media," he explained. Fair enough. He rarely talked about his past relationships. They weren't healthy, he said. I'd rather focus on us. I thought that sounded mature. I thought wrong. The first real crack came during a work event. I invited Ethan as my plus one. He agreed, then canceled last minute with a headache. I went alone, disappointed but understanding. Halfway through the evening, my coworker leaned over and said, "Isn't that Ethan?" I turned. It was him. Across the room, laughing, with a woman I didn't recognize. I froze. Before I could react, he looked up and saw me. The smile vanished instantly. He excused himself and hurried over. "Maya," he said, breathless, "this isn't what it looks like." I hadn't even said anything yet. "She's an old friend," he added quickly. "I didn't know she'd be here." Later, I learned her name was Claire. Still later, I learned she wasn't just a friend. I confronted him that night, not angrily, not accusingly. I wanted reassurance, not a fight. Ethan held my hands and looked me straight in the eyes. "I choose you," he said. "I've always chosen you." The words settled something in me. Love, I thought, is about trust. So I trusted. The truth arrived 6 months later, disguised as kindness. I was at a cafe near my office when a woman approached my table. "Maya?" she asked softly. I nodded, confused. She smiled, tight, careful. "I'm sorry to bother you. I think we should talk." Her name was Laura. She was calm in the way people get when they've already cried all their tears. "You don't know me," she said, sitting down, "but I know you." My heartbeat thundered in my ears. "Ethan talks about you. Or used to. Used to." I didn't speak. I couldn't. She said, "I was with him for 5 years. We broke up last year." Last year? My stomach dropped. "That's not possible," I whispered. "We've been together for 3 years." She nodded slowly. "I know." The cafe noise faded. Cups clinked. Someone laughed. Life went on. Meanwhile, my reality collapsed silently at a small round table. "He told me he was single," she said. "Then he said he was seeing someone casually. Then he said he needed time." Time. The word echoed. "And then," she continued, "I found out about you, about how serious it was." My hands shook. "Why are you telling me this now?" She hesitated. "Because I just found out there's someone else." Someone else. I felt something split. Not my heart, but my understanding of the past 3 years. Love didn't break me. The truth did. I went home and confronted Ethan. This time there was no calm explanation, no gentle reassurance. He didn't deny it. "I never meant to hurt you," he said, running a hand through his hair. "Things just overlapped." Overlapped, as if lives were calendar entries. "You let me build a future with you," I said quietly, "while you were living 3 different presents." He looked down. That told me everything. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I asked one question. How long? He swallowed. Most of it. That was the moment love left the room. Not angrily, not dramatically. It simply stood up and walked out. That night, alone in my apartment, I replayed every memory, every excuse, every canceled plan, every moment I felt uneasy and blamed myself. I hadn't been insecure. I had been intuitive, and someone had taught me to not trust it. I sat on the floor until sunrise, surrounded by the pieces of a story that finally made sense. The worst part wasn't that he lied. It was that he watched me love him honestly while knowing I didn't have the whole truth. That kind of betrayal doesn't break your heart. It rewires your sense of reality. By morning, I made a decision. Not about him, about me. Because
The days after learning the truth felt unreal. Every time I saw Ethan, it was like looking at a stranger wearing someone I had loved. I stopped answering his calls, I deleted messages, I ignored texts labeled "I love you." And yet, curiosity, that dangerous magnetic force, kept pulling me back. I needed details, names, dates. Why? I started with his phone. Not to snoop, though that's what people call it, but to piece together the fragments of the life he'd hidden from me. And it was worse than I imagined. Messages, pictures, even hotel receipts. Years of a parallel life. Every time I thought he was with me, he wasn't. He was somewhere else, pretending we were the only two people that mattered. There were conversations I hadn't been allowed to see, jokes I wasn't part of, moments that built a memory for someone else. The realization hit me like ice water. He had been creating an alternate reality, one where I was fully in love, fully invested, fully blind. I confronted him again. This time, my voice was calm, cold, precise. "How many?" I asked. He froze. I didn't wait for him to answer. "I don't need numbers," I said. "I need truth." His lips trembled, he swallowed. "Most of it," he admitted. I nodded. Exactly what I expected. My intuition had been right all along. "What else did you lie about?" I asked. He couldn't answer, because the truth didn't have a convenient excuse. I reached out to Laura. Not to cause drama, not to vent, to understand the scope of the deception. We met at a quiet park. She was softer in person than in my mind, calmer, wiser. "I didn't know you," she said, voice low, "but I saw how serious he was with you, how much you trusted him. I'm sorry you had to find out like this." Her words stung. She wasn't apologizing for herself, she was apologizing for him. "You think I could have seen it coming?" I asked quietly. She shook her head. "Not if you trusted him. That's the problem. He's good at hiding it." Over the next week, I replayed everything. Every smile, every promise, every whispered "I love you" now felt like manipulation. And yet, oddly, I felt no bitterness toward Laura. My anger was reserved for the one who had betrayed me fully, Ethan. I had invested myself completely, loved without reservation, believed in a shared future, and he had compartmentalized me. I needed space, so I left Vancouver, traveled north to the small coastal town of Tofino, where I could see the ocean, hear the wind, and think. For 3 days, I walked along the beach, replaying every memory, writing down every feeling, letting the anger settle in layers one by one. By the end of the 3rd day, I realized something profound. Love didn't break me. He did, but only temporarily, because betrayal doesn't have the power to destroy unless you give it that control. Back in Vancouver, I began reclaiming my life. I signed up for classes I had put off. I went out with friends I'd neglected. I started dating again, not to replace him, but to remind myself I existed outside the shadow of deception. And slowly, the pieces of my self-worth returned. The truth hurt, but the truth also liberated me. One evening, a text from Ethan appeared. "Can we talk?" I didn't reply, because I realized something important. He didn't get to rewrite my story anymore. I had been honest, I had loved fully, and now it was my turn to protect myself. Weeks passed. No calls, no messages, no excuses. And for the first time since discovering Ethan's betrayal, I felt peace. Not closure exactly, not forgiveness, but clarity. I knew my life didn't have to revolve around someone who had hidden parts of themselves and the people they loved from the truth. Ethan tried again. A message. Please, can we talk? I didn't respond. Not because I didn't care, because I had learned the most important lesson. Love doesn't hurt you. Deception does. And I didn't have to let it touch me anymore. I focused on me, on my career, my friendships, my own growth. I joined a writing workshop, pouring thoughts into stories I had never dared to tell. I traveled to the mountains, the coast, and cities I had dreamed of visiting. I laughed again. I smiled again. I even allowed myself to consider love again, but this time, carefully, consciously, without surrendering my identity. One evening, at a small cafe downtown, a stranger approached me. He smiled kindly. "Excuse me, you look like someone who writes stories, am I right?" I nodded. We talked, not about love, not about past pain, not about betrayal, just life, coffee, stories, and laughter. It was simple, honest, real. I realized then the life I thought I had lost because of Ethan's lies was not gone. It had only been paused, and now I was playing it on my own terms. Months later, Ethan reached out again. This time, his tone was desperate, regretful. "I never realized what I had," he wrote. "I've made mistakes. Can we—" I stopped reading. Not out of anger, out of certainty. Because I didn't need his validation, because the truth had already done its work. The truth hurt, the betrayal stung, but it also set me free. I realized that love, when honest, is strength, and deception, no matter how cleverly disguised, only has power over the one who allows it. I refused to be broken. I refused to be silenced. I refused to live in someone else's shadows. I made one final decision: to write a story, not about him, not about us, not about betrayal, but about me. To remind myself and anyone who had ever felt powerless in love that the truth, no matter how painful, can be the beginning of your rise, not the end. Love didn't break me. The truth did. And because of it, I was stronger, wiser, and entirely my own.